You're listening to the Meaningful Minutes with Nikki Olson podcast. This is a show for busy Latter-day Saint women who want to learn simple tools to feel confident and inspired in 10 minutes or less. Welcome. On this episode, I will discuss the fear of being judged by others and how to overcome that fear. In last week's episode, I discussed the two different types of fear in the scriptures, the fear of man and the fear of God. One of those you want and the other you don't. I didn't have enough time to cover everything I wanted to about fear, so for the next few episodes, I'll be diving deeper into some of the fears you might be feeling, and today I want to dive into the fear of being judged by others. But first, before I do that, I want you to know that the emotion of fear isn't a bad thing. Fear really tells us and alerts us to the presence of danger or the threat of harm, whether that danger is physical or psychological. We're born with fear. It protects us from harm and death. But what happens is when fear is triggered to protect you, your amygdala senses that fear, and the cerebral cortex part of your brain, the area of your brain that houses reasoning and judgment, becomes impaired. So now it's difficult for you to make good decisions, think clearly, or reason. Your brain just wants to go into fight or flight, which is good when you're in real danger because being chased by something, if you're really being chased by something, but if you're having the fear of being judged by others or a fear of like public speaking because you'll mess up or be embarrassed, then your rational, logical brain is shutting off and you can no longer feel peace from that part of your brain. Virginia Pearce said, as women, we very much like to please others, sometimes seeking approval so frantically that we become torn and confused by the conflicting needs of others around us. The truth is, people are judging you all the time. Someone somewhere is not liking what you're doing, thinking, or saying. You can't possibly please everyone. But just knowing that doesn't make all those fears go away, right? About someone judging you. You still don't want others to see you as incompetent and lose respect for you. You still don't want to be wrong and be rejected by others. You still have a real fear of losing your standing. Or you are still looking for comparisons to feel good enough. Wait, hold up. Nikki, what do comparisons have to do with this? Well, the comparison trap is a form of judgment. When you are comparing, you're wanting to find someone that you are equal or better than to feel good enough. You aren't comparing yourself to hopefully find someone you're worse than. But what usually happens is you find someone that is different than you and you start feeling not good enough. Remember, different doesn't mean better. That comparison trap is a form of you feeling judgment from others that is only in your mind. And just because you think it doesn't make it true. Also, if you keep trying to please everyone else, you'll lose your purpose and direction and never feel satisfied or happy again. And you will also fall into the cycle of being a lover of pleasures more than a lover of God. Oh, and just because your neighbor is doing something different than you doesn't mean you are less than. They may be receiving different revelation than you that is specific for their needs. Don't compare what God knows you need to what God knows they need. Learn to seek your own revelation. President Nelson has said, if we are to have any hope of sifting through the myriad of voices and the philosophies of men that attack truth, we must learn to receive revelation. I plead with you to set aside worldly influences and pressures and seek spirituality in your daily life. Fear of what others think of you or how they will see you limits your view. It can block your ability to receive revelation that is needed for you and your family. Elder Rasband has said, as we concentrate on pleasing the Lord rather than others and continue to work hard, doing the things we don't know how to do yet, we will experience personal growth. We will increase our confidence in Heavenly Father and His Son, Jesus Christ. This faith assures us that in the end, we will not only survive, but we will know great joy and happiness. Think about Elijah in the scriptures when he said, "Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them." Prayer can call down that type of strength and revelation that you need to center your thoughts on Jesus Christ and His atoning sacrifice, and not only know, but feel that they are more with you, that there are more that are with you than be with them. All right. Want to know my trick when I fall into this trap of having the fear of being judged by others? I use a little word change to align my will with my heavenly parents. I use the word prefer instead of the word should. Now, this may seem silly, but hear me out. Think about the word, what the word should means. It means you have an obligation or a duty to have to do that thing. So you should please someone means you have an obligation and a duty to please them. There's no way around it. And if you don't, there's major consequences. Like the feeling of disappointing someone, or that they'll no longer like you or respect you. Now let's look at the word prefer. Prefer means you would rather, you have a desire, or you like it better if things went that way. But if they don't, you understand. So if you prefer to please someone, means you would like people to like what you're doing or saying, but you have an understanding that they may not. And God has a plan even if they don't like you or you're not able to please them. So next time you find yourself fearing the judgment of others, ask yourself this question. What is it that I would prefer to have happen right now? For example, I would prefer that that person likes me. I would prefer that people accepted me. I would prefer that I was respected. I would prefer to feel good enough. Then wait and see what the Lord reveals to you in that moment. By letting God know what your desires are and allowing God to direct you in spite of your desires is saying what Jesus said in the Garden of Gethsemane. If thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. All right, try that out. Come tell me how it goes. Come find me on social media at Nikki Olson Coaching or shoot me an email. And don't forget to download this episode's handout to remember how to use this skill and have all the references I made here on this episode. All right, I'll see you next week when I talk about the fear of failure. I hope these minutes you spent with me were meaningful, helped you feel inspired and more confident. Check out my show notes for links to my website, social media, and free handouts for remembering how to implement the skills. I know there are other women that could use this information. Leaving a review is a great way for other women to hear this message. If you'd like more daily inspiration and guidance, please come find me on Instagram at Nikki Olson Coaching. If you share this episode, please tag me. I love to connect with my listeners. Thank you for listening to the Meaningful Minutes podcast with Nikki Olson.